on 2 on 2, a little lady with a lot of big admirers.
Hi, I'm Bob Wallace.
And I'm Don Craig. We're spending kind of a lazy summer afternoon in Jackson Park Harbor on the south side, not too far from the Loop, and a Chicago skyline that seems to change every time you turn around.
It changes because there are so many construction sites there, and last year we met a woman who likes to sketch those construction sites.
Like any student at the American Academy of Art in Chicago, Grace Lai spends a lot of time developing her ability to turn a real subject into a realistic drawing. But after class, instead of packing away her pencils and pens, Grace pursues her art in a far different setting. For months, Grace has been putting on a hard hat at the new skyscraper going up at 190 South LaSalle. Here, from various vantage points on and near the construction site, she's been documenting the growth of the building, doing it for the same reason Sir Edmund Hillary climbed Mount Everest.
It's like the mountain. It was there.
The building was there, and so was Grace, a tiny woman amid worked men twice her size, workmen who didn't know what to make of her initially.
First, they couldn't figure out whether I was crazy or whether I was a company spy or what I was. But then after they saw what I was doing, and they thought that it was pretty neat.
The workmen did think it was pretty neat to have an artist document what the public rarely sees: the toil, the teamwork, the talent of builders at work. Ironworker John Hillier.
She's a good artist. She's kind of captured all the aspects of the job out of her.
The John Buck Company, which is developing the 42-story building, also liked Grace's work, liked it enough to put her on the payroll to do artwork for the building's dedication next fall. But officials also liked something else: the morale-building effect that Grace seemed to have on the men. Men like John Hillier, who look out for her.
We don't want nothing falling on Grace. No bolts, boards, planks.
And men like Melvin Lang, who find themselves both amused and amazed by the little lady with the sketch pad and the funny little stool.
For me, it's functional. See? Right, Mel?
Unbelievable.
But with the amazement, there's also affection and admiration.
She bowls with all the guys. She's not afraid of the guys. Whatever they bring to her, she can handle it. And she smiles and takes it with grace.
Well, I'll tell you, they've always been quite wonderful to me. I ask them a question and they give me an answer, because there are a lot of things that I don't even know what's going on.
Grace may not have known what was going on at first, but by the time she'd begun finishing her sketches at home, she knew about such things as angel's wings, which are a kind of support, and bazooka bobs, which are used to see if a beam is perpendicular. She also discovered why workmen wear suspenders.
Those are special suspenders so that all the equipment on there doesn't pull his pants down.
Grace shares her studio with her son, Ed, a freelance art director who's very proud of his mom and her project.
I think it's great. I'm really pleased with her advancement and just real happy for her. And she wants to be a courtroom sketcher, so this is really good practice.
Always nearby as Grace works are mementos of her late husband, a respected commercial artist who passed away in 1985. For years, he gave her, on their anniversary, a single rose, hand-painted. He also gave Grace the inspiration to enroll in art school so she might follow the career that had always been a family affair. And if she's beginning a bit later than most?
What would you say about older people taking on a project like this?
You are as old as your spirit is.
You know, Grace has a lot more building to sketch these days. The 190 South LaSalle building's already been topped off, and it's going to be ready for its first occupants in October.
And the John Buck Company is going to display some of her sketches as part of the memorabilia that will commemorate the building's dedication.
Coming up next on 2 on 2, gourmet.
Your own. Art, like beauty, is where you find it. And this is where Grace Lai finds it, atop still under construction skyscrapers like this one at State and Grand. Every day, regardless of the weather, she rides a rickety, rumbling construction elevator to the upper floors to revel in the beauty of steel and concrete. of hard hats and hard work. Only a few years out of art school, Grace began her unusual career by sketching what was then a hole in the ground in Chicago's Loop. As it grew into a skyscraper, so did Grace's skills as an artist.
I'll tell you, the men have a certain respect for you when you come out when they're working. And the only way to capture them is to be there.
She's a beautiful person. I mean, we've seen a lot of photographers come out here, take pictures, they leave. Maybe they'll have somebody do oil paintings of them or whatnot. But we always got Gracie out here braving it with us.
She is here at the future home of the American Medical Association, which in the construction phase lends a breathtaking windowless view of the North Michigan Avenue skyline.
I don't think there's anything more exciting than Chicago. Just take a look out there and see.
But cityscapes are not all that grace the canvases of this diminutive artist. Her work also records the high-flying, rough-and-tumble construction activity that goes into a big city skyscraper. And the men who find themselves depicted in those scenes become Grace's most ardent fans and instant art critics as well.
I like the colors. It shows a lot of detail in what we do here on the job, and it really kind of depicts. I guess it's hard for the average person.
She sketches it as you go, and she stays off back in the background. You don't even know she's there, and the next thing you know, you're in the picture.
Well, Grace doesn't consider herself a starving artist. She is hungry for recognition. However, on a day like this, she's more cold than hungry.
I've got nylons on, I have two thermal wears on, I have ski pants on, and then I also have Oshkosh, by gosh.
And if all else fails?
Then you simply practically get in the garbage bag. It's a heavyweight garbage bag.
That thing right there?
Yeah.
Let me see that. What do you do?
You just sit in it, that's all, and it keeps the wind off.
On really cold days, we're talking garbage bag cold days, Grace must mix her paints in denatured alcohol to keep them from freezing. And while it does get cold up here, it also gets dangerous.
Usually the fellas and I have an understanding. If I'm in a spot where I shouldn't be, they just say, heads up, Grace, heads up, let's move it. So we just move it. Because the idea is that nobody wants Gracie smashed up or anything.
Grace Lai says she could paint these kinds of scenes forever because the Chicago skyline never stops. And these days, neither does the construction activity that makes it so majestic. Grace Lai, amazing Grace. She's one of Chicago's very own. What a remarkable woman. Sid Garcia back with us one more time to update on.
But despite the fact that the weather looks so terrible, you know, I met a woman today who thought the weather was picture perfect, and she found a sense of beauty where you'd least expect it.
The Great Chicago Flood has sure changed the face of the city. I mean, seeing the sights is like viewing one big construction site. You can't exactly call this beautiful.
But who would think a scene like this with all the mud and the trucks and the concrete and all the heavy equipment would somehow make the perfect picture?
Well, to Grace Lai, what these workers are doing is truly a work of art, and she's making sure she captures it.
It's a calling. To me, it's a calling. I want, people will write diaries about things, and other people will take photographs, but I want to document it.
Grace is a freelance artist who's lived in Chicago all her life, chronicling the sights of our city, sort of painting a history of change.
It's part of Americana. At least I think so. You know, some people go out and draw flowers. Some people will go out to do the Indiana Dunes. But I do something that everybody can recognize.
So while the workers work, so does Grace. And she's turned a real mess into quite a pretty picture.
Grace has captured the Great Chicago Flood in a very different way. You can see her work on May 3rd at the Academy of Fine Arts on Dearborn. So check her out. She'll be there.
I love these guys striking a pose for her in the tree.
Really nice pose. Look like G.I. Joe.
Thanks a lot, Steve. The Bulls begin their defense of their world championship in less than an hour. We'll have all the hoopla and a live report from the stadium.
Up next, and the Bears have their strategy all ready for Sunday's NFL draft. We'll tell you about it.
Well, I find that buildings are the most wonderful thing. They start from nothing. They start from nothing, and you'll see them, each craft has its discipline, and each group has its working together, and it is fascinating.
Lai decided in her late 50s that she wanted to go to art school, but doing watercolors of the builder's art was not her goal.
I just fell into it. I literally fell into it.
Lai headed downtown to school every day and before class sketched the building rising across the street. After that, she was hooked, and now she's a fixture in the workplace as new skyscrapers join the skyline.
You have to earn their trust. I trust them, they trust me, and your reputation follows you.
So as they work their way through the day, these workers aren't surprised at all to see a 5-foot-tall senior citizen getting ready to render them in watercolor. Lai's drawings accurately show the right angles and patterns of buildings and the fluid lines of men at work. She sells her watercolors to the workers and their companies, which commission her for portraits of their projects. In just a few weeks, the new headquarters for the American Medical Association will be complete, and Grace Lai's work here will be done. But this is Chicago. There's always another building.
I have been contracted by someone to do a highway. And I mean, I've always wanted to stop off and do a highway.
Ray Suarez, Channel 5 News.
And when that new AMA building opens, an exhibition of Grace Lai's work is planned there. That'll probably be August.